Hi, my name is Robin Wong. I'm a photographer based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I have with me the OM system OM-3. I want to share my quick impression of this camera in this video. Let's do this! Before we dive in, here are some important disclaimers. I am not connected or associated with OM Digital Solutions. I am actually at a consumer's touch and try event for this OM System OM-3 camera. I am at this Artishutter N4 camera store. This is a one-stop retail place for all things camera and imaging related. You can check this space out. I'll put the link in the description below. Special thanks to the people at Artishutter for allowing me to do this video. Obviously, this is not going to be a review of this OM-3 camera. I've only handled this camera for about less than half an hour. Based on my quick experience using this camera, I want to share some initial thoughts that I've had on this OM-3. There are some things that I really like about this OM system OM-3 camera. Number one, I love the camera's design. I think this is the best looking OM system camera up to date. I'll even argue to say that this is perhaps the best looking camera even from all Olympus cameras that has ever been made. I know that's quite controversial because there are a lot of people who are huge fans of the Pen F's design, but I think that this OM-3 looks even better than the Pen F. I just love the sleek, beautiful, retro classic design. It just oozes inspiration. It's the kind of camera that just inspires you to pick it up, to go out and shoot more. Number two, I love the build quality of this OM-3 camera. The camera feels very solid in hand. It is made of full metal construction. Definitely the camera feels very premium. It doesn't feel like a cheap camera at all. And it's so well constructed. Every turn of the dial, every press of the button, everything in the camera just feels very high grade and premium. Definitely this is the kind of camera that when you pick it up, it really inspires confidence. Of course, this OM-3 is also weather sealed, and I appreciate that OM system includes weather sealing in this camera, because if I were to use this camera, perhaps I'll use it for street photography, and sometimes we do shoot in the rain, and the camera being weather sealed allows for more photo opportunities. Number three, why I love this OM system OM-3 camera, it has flagship internals. In fact, the OM-3 shares very similar internals with the flagship OM-1 Mark II camera. It has the same image sensor, the same image processor, it has the same advanced features like handheld high-res shot, LiQWYD ND, 120 frames per second burst, it has really fast pro capture mode, all the performance, image output, and all the advanced features is very similar to the flagship, and you can have all that in this OM-3 despite this not being a flagship level camera. Reason number four, what I like about this OM-3 is that this is perhaps the first OM system camera that is not wildlife focused. For the past 3 or 4 years, all the products that have been launched by OM system, it has always been on nature, outdoor, wildlife centric. It is about photographers shooting birds, shooting wildlife, shooting macro, everything about nature and outdoor. So I'm glad to see that this OM-3 is not designed for that specific purpose. It encompasses a wider genre of photography. For its design alone, you would know that this camera is definitely suitable for street photographers like myself. And of course, this is the kind of camera that is targeted towards a wider audience, people who want to shoot maybe nothing too serious, not a professional setup environment, perhaps on casual, everyday travel, documentary, street, anything else other than wildlife. And it's good and refreshing to see that OM system does care about these other genres of photography as well. Since I've only limited time with this OM-3 camera, there are some things that I can't talk about because I've not tested the camera thoroughly. Number one, I cannot talk about the image quality. Obviously, I don't have any sample photographs of this camera that I can take home. Even if I do, there's no compatibility for RAW converter for the post-processing software to evaluate the images. But having said that, I will argue that the image quality should be very similar from what we can expect from the OM-1 Mark II camera. It uses the same image sensor and same processor after all, and OM system didn't claim any image quality improvements. If there is, they would have shouted it out in the front page during the announcement, right? So it's safe to say that we can expect the same image quality with the OM-1 Mark II, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think 20 megapixels for a non-professional environment is still plenty enough. You have enough dynamic range and high ISO latitude to work with. I've used my EM1 Mark II, which basically has the same image output compared to the OM-1 Mark II in a lot of professional environment, and I've delivered my shots to my clients. My clients have always been happy. I've never found the camera not to be sufficient. In fact, it is more than enough for what I need to do. So coming from that, I expect this OM-3 to produce excellent image quality. Number two, of course, I can't access the autofocus performance, although it does share a similar algorithm and a processor to the OM-1 Mark II. I only have limited time with the camera. Of course, there are so many other reviews out there that can tell you how the autofocus performance of the OM-3 is. Based on my limited time with this OM-3 camera, there are some things that I dislike about it. Number one, poor handling. Now, do bear with me. If you're using small lenses like this 17 f1.8 or any other compact primes from Olympus or Panasonic, the handling is perfectly fine. I found no issue whatsoever. Now, the problem starts to happen when you switch to larger and heavier lenses like this Olympus 12-40 f2.8 Pro. It somehow feels unbalanced and it gets a little bit uncomfortable handling the lens on this OM-3. And it doesn't help that the front gripping area of the camera is kind of slippery. There's no actual gripping texture that can securely lock your fingers on it. And there is this creative dial. I understand a lot of people love it, but the position of the dial could have been a little bit better. I wish it's further away from the hand gripping area, because using larger lenses like this, I found my fingers gripping harder on this area, and the creative dial, it does get in the way. It cuts into my fingers and it pushes in. It just gets uncomfortable. The slippery grip, the bad position of the creative dial, and overall it just feels not very good, especially if you're handling larger lenses. I can't imagine if you're using even larger and heavier. There are such lenses, for example, 40-150 f2.8 Pro. Number two, this is just a personal preference, but it is a complaint nonetheless. I think the OM-3 is a little bit too big. I wish it's about 15 or 20% smaller, maybe about the size of the original Pan-F or even slightly smaller. That would have been amazing. It is Micro Four Thirds camera after all. What Micro Four Thirds does best is to produce really compact, really small cameras, and yet delivering fantastic performance. Number three, the electronic viewfinder. I wish it could have been a little bit better. The viewfinder in this OM-3 is not a bad viewfinder. I've used this similar panel viewfinder in the previous EM10 Mark II or even the original Pan-F, which is more than 10 years ago. This is the year 2025. We would expect a little bit of improvement, right? But they use the same panel. Yes, the viewfinder has different optics, different magnification. It looks bigger, but it just makes things worse because you're just amplifying the pixels. You're not giving more pixels. I don't expect the viewfinder to have the same resolution as the 5.7 million dots in the OM-1 Mark II. Perhaps use somewhere in between, like the 3.7 million dot panel, which is available for a lot of other cameras in the market. That would have been a good step up, but it doesn't have to be a flagship specification. Let's address the elephant in the room. And finally, number four, the pricing. I do think the pricing is on a little bit of the higher side of things. When I heard from the announcement that the price of the OM-3 during launch was about $2,000 US, wow, I was taken aback. Being the first camera that is not wildlife centric, and bear in mind, this is not a professional grade camera. It doesn't have a beefy grip, it doesn't have dual cut slots. It's not designed for professional work, and yet it is priced at a flagship level. I would think that it could have been lower, it could have been more accessible, especially now we do want Micro Four Thirds to reach out to a wider audience. Maybe about $500 lower, that could have been amazing. allow me to counter-propose an alternative design for this OM-3. Some alternative decisions. Now, I want to make two big changes. Number one, improve the electronic viewfinder because, come on, this is the year 2025. We're still using the same panel from more than 10 years ago, the 2.36 million dots panel. I don't expect the electronic viewfinder to have the latest panel from the OM-Mark II, the 5.7 million dots, but at least we can give it a boost, give it a significant upgrade to, say, 3.7 million dots. That would have been appreciated. And number two, lower the price to maybe $1,500 US. I understand to do that, there must be some compromises. Now here's the thing. This OM-3 is definitely not designed for wildlife shooters. And the OM-3 is not designed for professional environment. If you want to shoot wildlife with this, you're handling long, large lenses with this grip. That is a poor decision. If you are shooting wildlife, there are better cameras, OM-1, OM-Mark II. Those cameras are definitely for you. Now for this camera, it's for casual shooters, for street photographers, for everyday photographers, for documentary photographers. You don't need all these crazy features, the latest features like 120 frames per second burst. You don't need to use all this crazy like handheld high-res shot. There are a lot of these really, really powerful AI features like bird detection autofocus. We can take them all out. We don't need the latest 20 megapixel sensor on the OM-Mark II. We don't need the latest processor. Rip them out and replace with the older, equally capable 20 megapixels image sensor from the EM-Mark III or EM-X, which basically produces the same image quality as the OM-Mark II anyways. I've verified this. I have both the OM-1 and EM-Mark II. I've done my side-by-side tests, so you don't lose in terms of image quality. You will lose in terms of performance. 10 frames per second on this camera is more than good enough. What am I going to do with 120 frames per second, right? So take away all these crazy features in the latest processor, use the older processor, but make this camera a little bit smaller, improve the quality of the electronic viewfinder, then I think we'll have a winner at a price of $1,500 OM-3. What do you guys think? That's all to share about this OM System OM-3 camera. I know those are just quick impressions, initial thoughts on this OM-3. I don't have the time to test this camera thoroughly, but hey, if you found my sharing beneficial, please consider buying me a cup of coffee, or you can contribute directly to my PayPal, or you can join as a member in this channel. All the links in the description below on how you can do that. Any contribution, any support goes a long way. Until the next one, please go out and take more photographs. Bye-bye.